All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
That's what I'm thinking. Welcome to Chicago Junction, the radio program that is about the amazing world of railroading, both prototype and model. I am your announcer, Brian Valou, and here is our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and the chief electrical engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Monday, January the 16th, the year 2017. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Thank you, John. Our chief dispatcher could not be with us this evening, so we're going to take turns playing head man here to help keep the chaos under control. Like I said, my name is Brian Valou. I'm your announcer and also one of the expert panelists that you will hear this evening. And I got into railroading as a hobby when I was a kid, starting with the Lionel, and I just kept it up all through the years. I became a member of several museums and have kept that up. Belonged to a few organizations like the Heston Steam Museum. Belong to the Chicago Area Garden Railway Society. I do, and the big program I'm in is Operation Lifesaver. I'm one of the volunteer presenters, and I could probably keep going, but I should really be quiet to let somebody else speak. So on my left I have...
My name's Ron Stock, and I'm a former librarian at Eisenhower Library. My interest in trains also began as a child. My dad had an American Flyer set that he rigged and did for us, for me anyway. And years later, we started to get into HO. Never completed the set, but now that I'm in retirement, I'm hoping to finish the layoff off.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Berry. I'm a retired Chicago police sergeant, lifetime Lionel hobbyist. I still own and regularly operate my 1957 Lionel steam engine. I still have all the original cars with almost all of the original corners. I'm a member of the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, and I'm a counselor for the Boy Scouts of America for the Railroading Merit Badge. And I have ridden behind actual steam trains, and I'm hoping to do it again this summer.
Hi, I'm Doug Kenyuk. I'm with the Railroad and Short Lines Club of Chicago. That's rscc.dhke.com. Longtime rail fan, N-scale model railroader, and adjunct professor at Wright College.
Well, a very happy new year to everybody to get a start, and to our listening audience. By the way, those who have joined the Chicago Junction Facebook page, please, suggestions for topics for us to talk about will also be welcome, and I know we'll get noticed by the man who normally takes care of it, Mr. Dave DeRuska, and we hope he's doing well, and we'll make sure we see him next month. So what else do we do?
I could start with a couple of items.
Sure.
Okay, first of all, CSX is resurrecting the Crete Rail Intermodal Yard project from Centerpoint. Interesting side note, Centerpoint actually has a short line railroad called Centerpoint Crete Railroad. They incorporated a couple of years back. And they're holding hearings now to see if they should go ahead and build this huge intermodal yard or not. over down by Crete. Will County says, well, we learned a few things built in that big one in Joliet, so we'll just go ahead and make the same mistakes again. They're talking about the infrastructure, if the highways will support it, and yada, yada, yada.
They just built a new set of on and off ramps on 57 at Stunkel Road, University Park. There's so if there's enough traffic, they'll build the ramps. That's not a problem.
Oh yeah, that's what
The
I
problem is
for.
once you get off the interstate, it's 2-lane highway, one coming and one going.
It could be a slight problem.
Yeah.
IDOT, Illinois Department of Transportation, says, yes, let's go ahead and build the Southeast Commuter Line. No money.
Well, of course,
So they're all in favor of it. They said that before Pat Quinn left, our former governor, he's pledged money, but the money disappeared. So that's where that one stands. They're still fighting out where it's going to end up, but they're in favor of doing one. The Ileana Expressway popped up again, along with those other yo-yos with the rail line. And they're talking about, since CSX wants to resurrect their intermodal terminal, Ileana Expressway says, oh, we need an expressway to service that. And then the Ileana Beltline said, oh yeah, and you need a railroad to serve that. So they're back at that. Meanwhile, two groups up in Wisconsin are fighting it like crazy, the Ileana Belt. So
They have an expressway they want built instead?
Yeah, of course.
that doesn't have anything to do with trains.
No.
So, interesting enough, you would think this would be a local decision, but apparently the Federal Railroad Administration is picking the route between Tucson and Phoenix for their first big startup commuter service, not the state of Arizona.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, and they mentioned in the article they had an orange corridor, a yellow corridor, and a blue one and a green one, and they liked the yellow one. No idea where it is because there was no maps with the article. But they figure it's going to cost like $4.5 billion to build it. Yeah. Alton, Illinois. The train station. Alton wants to tear it down. Preservationists want to keep it alive and well. So there's a big fight going on down there right now. The Alton Area Landmarks Association is trying to get it designated a landmark so it can't be torn down.
Well, how old's the station?
Let's see. Doesn't say in the article. It's probably been there for a while. 150 years old.
Oh, I could see why they want to go for a historic landmark a little bit.
So there's a big fight going on down there right now between the preservationists and the city. So it's, well, here's one. You ever hear of the Hyperloop? This is a guy who's going to put a maglev inside of a tube and run it between 2 points. Now, running as a maglev, you could run it at 500-600 miles per hour in a vacuum.
Right.
And the original proposal was between L.A. and Las Vegas. Then the second proposal was between L.A. and San Francisco. Well, the third proposal is between Chicago and Columbus, Ohio.
That's been talked about before.
Well, it's been in part of several high-speed route ideas.
Yeah, and Ohio's behind the proposal this time.
What Ohio company is going to make the maglev drives that Ohio is pushing it?
Well, somebody in Ohio.
Yeah, so it's made in the USA.
I don't have a problem with that part of it.
It doesn't say. It just says Ohio's behind the deal. Down in Florida, the Orange Blossom Cannonball and Lake Dora Limited out of Mount Dora is being kicked. Central Florida Railroad's kicking them off the property.
Oh, really? Why?
They decided to reevaluate the line and they're going to try to boost their freight service over it. So January 29th is the last run for the trains. Now, everybody knows this. I didn't know this, but if you watch a number of movies, these trains were featured in it.
Probably.
And I think I have the list here. I didn't get a chance to highlight which movies they were in. Oh, they were in There Will Be Blood, 310 to Yuma, Appaloosa, and True Grit. Featured these trains from the, not sure what the name of the place is, but it's Orange Blossom Special. And it's using their locomotives 110 years old. They also have a 1947 diesel for the run. And I guess they're not fighting. They're negotiating with the Central Florida Railroad to not kick them out. But right now, it seems like they're going to be pushed off the property.
And they've been paying and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like Ventura County.
I'm not sure where Mount Dora is. That's why. Central Florida sounds like it's outside Orlando someplace. Interesting item from China is China's launching a freight train service between Britain and China across a whole bunch of railroads. What I found interesting was that there's 9 different gauges they have to cut across. So what they're going to do is every time they come up to a change in gauge, they're going to transfer the containers from one railroad to the next and keep going. And they estimate the time between eastern China, the east coast of China, to Britain to be 18 days to do all this, to run their freight trains. Now, the impact of that will be less traffic for American railroads, if that succeeds. Because right now, to get stuff to Europe, China ships it overseas to one of our West Coast ports. Our railroads haul it across the country to an East Coast port, where it's put on a boat and sent to Europe. The smaller container boats still go through the canal. Meanwhile, the canal's being widened so they can run the bigger ships through. But if this rail link works, now the agency that's running this is the China Railway Corporation, is paying to have one gauge all the way through. Even if they have to put a second track in, so because of the narrow or the wide ones. Yeah. So, but the consequence of that is that 18, 20 days, right now it takes 2.5 months to go from eastern China to Europe by way of the U.S. Our railroads will lose some business.
And when are they projecting this new?
It just left. The first trains are going out right now.
And how many years to get the unified track?
Oh no, they're going to be changing. They're going to take the containers off every time the gauge changes. They're going to take the containers off, put it on that one, and send it on the way.
Or switch trucks.
Yeah, either way. That's why it's taking 18 days. Finally, something called Brightline out of Florida. It's going to run service between Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami with nice high-speed trains. They just took delivery of their first one called Yellow Bright. They got them color-coded. And it's a private enterprise. There's no government subsidy involved with this company. So they're projecting up to 1 million riders a year.
Well, they're the ones that are riding on FEC, right?
Yeah. And so they got like bright orange, bright pink, bright red, and bright green in the future coming. So there's interesting things out there. It's just they showed it off. They were at the Miami someplace showing off their bright yellow train.
To be back with Timothy Leary again.
Are we talking about a concussion or a really bad hangover?
Depends. But that's the story. Siemens, I think it's Siemens, is building the equipment. It's being stored at South Florida City right now. They call them smart coaches. 2 engines, 4 cars, 4 passenger cars. Your turn.
On a slightly more pleasant note, in the February issue of Classic Toy Train, starting on pages 30, 31, and 32, 8 layout tips you need, and the tagline is "Expert advice helps you build it right the first time." And
where's the fun in that?
Daddy, why can't I play with my train? They said instead of after you've built your 2x4 frame and putting 1/2-inch plywood on top of it, put a sheet of 2-inch thick pink styrofoam insulation. It's easy. It's easier to cut. You don't have to drill holes. An ice pick or a screwdriver will pierce it easily for wire runs. And they go through quite a few tips that make a lot of sense. A taller train table, 44 to 48 inches, so you can sit in a chair and do the work instead of the 30 inches that you got to either scrunch down like you're hiding in a garbage can, or lay on your back and try to solder above your head.
Or stoop over and injure your back.
Label all the switches. Use pegboard with 1/4-inch holes, because there's nice little push button switches you can get at Radio Shack that fit perfectly in the 1/4-inch holes. Use heavy gauge wire.
That's if you could find a Radio Shack.
There's one at Route 83 in Harlem.
All the ones are gone.
It's the corporate stores are still open. It's the franchise stores that closed. There's one just south of Archer on Ashland Avenue too. A separate table for your transformers. Make your connections as simple as you can, and fine-tune your operations. And when they say fine-tune your operations, instead of trying to run everything off of one KW or ZW transformer, get a couple of the little ones to operate your accessories, where you can bump it up a 1/2 volt at a time, that it runs properly.
Well, if I had 500 feet of track too, I'd follow that suggestion.
I think the layout that this guy is showing in the book is either an 8x4 or an 8x12.
And there's also a Radio Shack in Bensonville, right on the corner of Grand Avenue and New York Road.
Thank you, John. The other ray of sunshine that I brought with me is the Woodland Scenic Lionel Electric Train Hobby Store that was sold by Menards over the Christmas holiday. It came out big time last Christmas, and they must have found a couple of crates of them up in Wisconsin in the warehouse, because it popped up, but it only popped up online at menards.com, and then you enter train stuff in the search box. But it's $79, and it's basically it looks like it belongs on the corner of a street intersection, because the one corner is cut at a 45-degree angle, like a corner store would be. But it's got some beautiful graphics. Comes with a bunch of people, a dumpster, a couple of garbage cans, a big old tiger striped cat sitting up on top of the dumpster sunning, a kid leaning on the window, a father walking in the front door with his child. There's vents and stacks on the roof. Windows with blinds inside the windows. Trains as you look in through the main windows. It's not as fancy as the Lionel Hobby Shop, but for $79, it'll look good on almost anybody's layout.
Well, yeah, any structures. I mean, they've gone through to give you an interior and everything, so yeah, that looks great.
It's got it's got the city sidewalk and the step-up curb. It really looks nice.
The Menards by our house had a engine shop that had burned down.
Oh yeah, that was one of their new ones this year.
That was interesting.
Yeah, you could either get. Last year you could buy the engine shop. This year you could buy the burnt-out engine shop with the shell of a steam engine in it.
No, it's kind of nice, even with the sign painted on the back.
Yeah, well, that's Menards billboard that they started using when they started selling trains, with the big German Shepherd and then the nice panorama. And they came out with they've got two Quonset hut buildings. One is a mechanic shop and the other is is supposed to be an Army MASH unit. So they're coming out with a lot of buildings. I think this is the fourth one I've got from them. I've got the powerhouse, the outdoorsman's building, the mechanic Quonset hut, and now the hobby shop. They're bigger than Plasticville, but they got better detail.
Well, you said something and made me remember something. We should, an actor by the name of William Christopher passed away last year during Christmas week. And he played Father Mulcahy on MASH.
Yes, he
He's
did.
probably just remembered for. But when he was a budding actor in New York, he went to work part-time at where his wife worked, at a place called Lionel. And he ended up becoming Engineer Bill,
Outstanding.
answering kids' questions and stuff and sending handouts out in the mail, talking to them. So, in a way, it's appropriate we bring him up in this.
Yeah, I think he died on December 31st, and it was a year to the day that Wayne Rogers, also from MASH, had passed away. And the comment was made on the radio show that I listened to that they hope that ends the streak of actors from MASH dying on that date.
But anyway, I thought that would be appropriate with your reference to Lionel and everything.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Now I just got to go dig up an old copy of War Circus and watch that. where they have to move a hospital down a set of railroad tracks, and they take the arms off a hand car and jack up the front end of a deuce and a half, take the wheels off, put it on the hand car, and drive the deuce down the rails with the rear duals, one on either side of the rail.
I like it with the Jeep doing it.
Yeah. There's so many movies that have trains in them.
Yeah, trains are not, they're not the focal point, but they're part of the story.
They make a great backdrop.
Yes, they do.
Narrow Margin was on the TV about 4 weeks ago. And that
Which
was
one?
the remake with Gene Hackman and Mary Steenburgen? Yeah. But
Yeah,
that was all filmed on Via. Or at least on Via equipment. I don't know if it was on Via trackage, but the equipment was Via, the Canadian Railway.
Well, they started on American. They started out of Washington Station,
Yeah.
and they were on Amtrak.
Yeah, and a very memorable scene where the last bad guy gets taken out by a tunnel. You know what I like about you? No, what? You're tall. Whap!
The things, that get some people.
Well, I got a couple of things also from Model Railroader and talking about magazines. Somebody wrote in and said, what websites have good pictures of trains? And if you're a modeler or even just interested in seeing good train pictures, they recommended several sites. One was Railroad Picture Archives, which is www.rrpicturearchives, all one word, .net. They also recommended Fallen Flags, www.fallenflags-org and org, excuse me, and www.railcar photos and railcarpictures.net. So those are 4 different sites. We'll post them up on the website, and I'll give it to the person that normally posts the information so it's there more accurately. The second thing is I'm into HO trains, and one of the things I want to do is I'm kind of in the Northern Pacific, Milwaukee Road, and Great Northern, and I saw an article that somebody did a did a model of the station at Gardner, Montana, which for the Northern Pacific was rather famous because it was their entrance to the Yellowstone route and into Yellowstone was at Gardner, and they had a curved station there, and they ended up, the Livingston, Montana Model Railroad Club did a recreation of Gardner Station set in the 1930s, and they had the information there. Once again on this, they said they Googled the particular site and managed to come up with all kinds of pictures so that they could recreate it into the scale that's HO. And I'm sure it could be done to any gauge, whether you're N or Lionel or American Flyer. And so that was another kind of interesting article, at least for myself personally. The other thing that I think all of us would really like to have is a bunch of choo-choo shoes, which is actually produced by Broadway Limited Imports, which I thought was interesting because they're more noted for their engines. And but they do have, if you go online, www.choochooshoes.com, and it's sound-equipped shoes. When the feet are stomped, the whistles and headlights illuminate when both shoes land together after a jump, with and with off on shoot. And the best part is they do them not only for kids but adults. So us big trainers can wear these shoes.
Uncle Brian's eyes are lighting up like a Christmas tree.
Oh, this is so good. No, I had a wonderful Christmas present for my daughter because she gave me a pair of slippers. Doctor Who.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, I love Doctor Who.
TARDIS slippers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, along with the TARDIS, now you have train shoes.
Okay, choo-choo.
Choo-choo shoes.
Okay, www.choochooshoes.
ChooChooShoes.com.
Okay.
And Broadway Limited is supposedly the producer of them, or the seller of them.
Please don't anybody tell my wife about those.
It's a little late for Christmas, but Christmas next year.
No, I've got a dog that would demolish those for making noise in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
No, I need to get a new pair of slippers anyway. I've been kind of wearing out the TARDIS.
Little too old for your fuzzy bunnies?
Long gone.
And I have another thing which isn't exactly a hobbyist thing, but certainly from my standpoint it has two of my favorite things. It's got chocolate and trains. In the Brussels South Station they built a 112-foot long chocolate train, which was over 2,755 pounds, and spent over 70 hours constructing the masterpiece, and it's in the Guinness Book of World Records. And they had pictures of it. Unfortunately, for some reason, when I printed the article, the pictures are not accompanying it, but evidently they did two trains, one a European, and then they did a Western 1900s train, and various cars on it in addition, so hence why it's 112 feet long. And I thought, wow, that's a cool idea.
The American engine looked like it was cast in milk chocolate.
Yes.
Because it was that delicious light brown color.
Yep. So that was the other cool thing, and I actually got that from one of my former trustees sent it to me.
Well, I'm going to have to step in for a second.
Sure.
Because it's going to be time for station identification. Take it away, John.
You are listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norge and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, January the 16th, the year 2017. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. And now back to Chicago Junction and our panel.
Aha, thank you, John. Well, did you guys get everything taken care of during the break? All right.
That was a break?
It was a breather.
You going to tantalize us with anything more?
Actually, one other thing, which is it showed up in Model Railroader this month, which was January, and it was at Train Fest in Milwaukee. The Japanese model railroader manufacturer Kato sponsored a T-track module constructed contest in Japan each year for students. The students are juniors and seniors in high school. And this year they brought the junior senior high school from Hiroshima over that won the prize to the U.S. And they brought their display in with them. It was a really, really fantastic looking display that I saw there, and I thought it was quite interesting. So just a heads up on that, and also an opportunity to, I'm sure it's online. And one of their features was the lantern, which they illuminated in fiber optics. So which is famous up in Japan and Hiroshima. So that was kind of cool, I thought.
Well, T-Track got real big. It started about 8 years ago, 9 years ago. It's basically this size, 8 by 12 approximately, and they put the tracks on it longwise, and you connect them all together, and you could build any size layouts.
Mm-hmm.
And they have there's a website called ttrack.com, I believe that's what it's called, or t-track.com. I'm not sure the exact name. And there's a Facebook group, and they have a lot of specifications. Not only do you have the small ones, they have 2-foot, 4-foot modules, the curves now, Ys, and so on like that. It's double track, not quite it's N scale, because it was originally N scale. Now there's an HO branch, and now there's a Z scale branch. When they put the two tracks together, they're not prototypical parallel. They just put the two tracks together and said, okay. So what happens is you have to have a transition module if you put the tracks in parallel way they should be, center to center. Other than that, it's actually a fun thing to do, to build those little modules. So if you don't have a lot of room in your house, you could build 2 or 3 of these modules, get together with a bunch of other people, set it up on a table, your standard small picnic table, and away you go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the way I like with the modular groups. They, for people who don't have layouts and such, a modular group is great. And that way you can actually come up with, we can make a different size layout so we can go to different venues.
Right.
And like you were up at Train Fest, did you make it over to the second building?
I actually stayed at the first building. A friend of mine got to the second building, was telling me. I was a bit slow compared to him.
Well, that way you didn't see the big layout that Midwest Rails can put out.
Ah.
Yeah, we had a 55 by 63 layout, modular. And I'm proud to say my GG1 performed well. I had one of the USA GG1s, 40 pounds of fury. I don't need no traction tires.
G-gauge, correct?
G-gauge, and we had a 40-car train going around the track.
Impressive.
That's impressive.
And trust
Yes.
me, well, it was basically, I could see half the layout was taken with that. But I got every car I could to try and see what it would pull.
Well, the one good thing about N-gauge is that you can pretty much run realistic trains with that particular gauge, as opposed to both HO and almost all the other gauges. It's hard to run a really long, if you wanted to do a 100-car train, which often you see while you're sitting at the tracks, they just don't really accommodate them. The engines aren't usually strong enough.
Well, it's because of, the size.
Or size too.
Right. My property is limited in size.
Right.
I could probably get a nice oval in there, and I could run the GG1 on it. But I just wanted to see exactly what her power was.
Well, that's one of the cool things about going to these exhibits, is that you have a lot more room than you would in your house or anywhere else. So you get the chance to experiment and have fun
and
with it.
And we love being in that second building.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not as crowded.
Right.
The Southland Train Show that they have in October every year out at Richards High School in Oak Lawn, when the G-gauge guys get in there, Their normal layout is somewhere in the vicinity of 40-foot by 30-foot rectangle, but they'll have 4 or 5 sets of tracks. And
you're talking about on the floor.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the LGB club.
yeah. And I'm trying to remember if they threw down mulch for ground cover or they had a camouflage.
Well, it is.
Net that
It
they
is
put
mulch.
down.
It's mulched up rubber,
Yeah,
and it's green. And they had their layout set up at the Brookfield Zoo over Christmas. And if anybody saw the Festival of Lights, they probably saw they have a really good show, and they're now setting up for exhibition at the, what conservatory is it? Downers Grove.
Um,
I can't remember the name.
Is it in Chicago or
Yeah.
Garfield maybe?
No, out.
Oh.
I said Downers Grove.
Oh, okay.
Out in Downers Grove area. The Morton Arboretum.
Yeah.
They're going to be set up there running. And anybody going up to Milwaukee, there'll be an exhibit set up of trains running in the domes. They didn't run it last year because the one dome had to have structural work done to it. And so, but it's that has been complete, so they'll be setting up, and I believe this week, next week is when they're going to open up and run.
what you got there?
Well, I got some news to go on. Didn't want to be all boring. But the Chicago RTA approves operating budgets from CTA and Metra. Let's see. Leaders at the CTA, Chicago's Regional Transportation Authority, have approved $3 billion in operating budgets for the Chicago Transit Authority, for Metra, and then other public services. The CTA is going to get $1.5 billion in operating funds, while Metra is set to get $781 million. The board also approved a 5-year capital plan totaling $5.1 billion, including $1.8 billion in capital expenditures for 2017 alone. CTA will continue rehabilitation work on the Wilson Station project, 95th Street Terminal, and also selecting the final track alignment for the Red Line extension to 95th Street to 130th Street. The agency has also continued engineering work in Phase 1 on red and purple lines modernizations. On Metra, the rail officials are proposing a fare increase of 6%. The revenue will result in extra revenue that will be used to address the railroad's capital needs. Crews will continue to be rebuilding locomotives, rail cars in 2017 with the option to purchase additional cars as well. Metra crews will also continue to work a multi-year effort to replace Union Pacific North Line bridges on Chicago's north side, while also rebuilding the Ravenswood Station. And more good news, Metra partners with Uber on rideshare program. Metra is entering into a 3-year agreement with Uber to serve as the agency's rideshare partner for the connections to and from downtown and suburban stations. Metra officials recently announced in a news release. The new marketing partnership with Uber aligns with the agency's first mile, last mile challenge, which helps commuters reach their destination when it's not an easy walk from a transit stop. The agency started soliciting rideshare partners earlier this year. As part of the partnership, Uber's name will be featured at Metra facilities, onboard trains, and printed in the commuter's agency's timetable, among other marketing literatures. Partnership officially begins in 2017, February. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I had to print it up. ABC Chicago. Yes, the television station.
I saw that. That's about 6 blocks from me.
Metro crews keep rails from freezing. Television station gets close-up video of railroaders fixing a cold weather pull apart. That's the other part of the story. When they first did it, if you have yet to see this video posted on Facebook from Chicago's ABC affiliate, please don't throw a shoe at your screen. For someone who knows railroading, someone with ABC posted a video recording Metro crews standing near a diamond with one rail lit on fire. ABC's original caption was, "Winter in Chicago, setting the tracks on fire to make sure they don't freeze so trains could keep moving." ABC later amended its post to read, "Winter in Chicago, setting tracks on fire to combat the extreme cold so trains can keep running." Trains New Wire contacted Metro to confirm what most Trains readers suspected. Railroaders were heating the rail to expand it and fix it when it had pulled apart in cold weather at Mayfair Crossing, where the UP intersects the Milwaukee North Line.
It was hilarious to watch that story.
Then it goes back to how many news people really know railroading or anything about trains anymore.
If you watched Railroad Alaska, you would know that that's how they expand the rail when the maintenance guys had to make a quick fix.
Oh, there was a great Pentrex video over Donner, going over Donner Pass with snowplow, and it was really good. It was with the UP crews, and they were going up, and they started with flangers, and then they went out with a Jordan spreader to start spreading the rails from the snow, and the rail had overturned, and it had a beautiful deal how they soaked the rope with kerosene, put it along the rail, expanded, and then put it back in, and then went on its way.
Donner, party of 47. My wife saw that and says, "You got to see this. Metro's burning up the tracks."
But yeah, well, it's like Donner Pass, closed to road traffic, but the trains are still running. Also, we got a new exhibition opening at the Grumman Museum there at the Milwaukee School of Engineering in Milwaukee. For the last few years, they've had railroad exhibits, different features. And this gentleman by the name of David Plowden, who had his train pictures on display up there about 4 years ago, then owned Winston Lake the following year. He's got one for the steel industry that's going to open up. He takes some great photographs. Some of his photography is really, really good. And his pictures do tell a story. And he's from right here in Chicago. I believe he lives up in Willamette area. And his exhibit is opening January 20th, and it's going to run to April 30th. The Grumman Museum, if you haven't been there, the museum, all the artwork in it is basically designed for man at work. The sculptors that are there and everything. The building that they built it in was at one time a Cadillac dealership. And after it was a Cadillac dealership, it became Federal Treasury that was in Milwaukee. And they got a hold of it, fixed it, made a museum out of it. Handicap accessible. They even put a nice roof garden. And they took sculptors that they had, figures, and they had somebody make larger figures of them to take them from 3 feet to 9 feet tall. And they are on, instead of gargoyles, They surround the roof on the corner. Very nice work. The growing family should be commended for the art that they've saved. And
My son almost went to MSOE, and I know one of the buildings on campus used to be a brewery.
well, there's the building down there. It's Pabst Brewery.
Okay, I couldn't
And
remember
they-
if it was
and-
Pabst or Schlitz.
Yeah, I believe they've got apartments in there now, and I know there's several restaurants right there.
Well, he was enamored of the place because back when he was going to go to college, they had a powder printer. I guess it's a precursor of a 3D printer, and he wanted to get his hands on that and make stuff, but he wound up going to a different school.
But yeah, when the by the way, when the exhibition opens on the 20th, they'll have a special showing between 5 and 9, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And Mr. Plowden will be there to meet and greet and talk with everybody.
Cool.
But it really is a neat art museum. Some of the stuff that they've got for men at work.
What's going on in the STEAM world?
Ah. Well, today the tickets went on sale for 611's trips. She'll be running in Virginia, North Carolina area, and make sure we got tickets today. My wife and I. She says we will ride behind Steen this year. After last year's trips behind 765. She bit the bug bit her. So we're doing a trip out on April 22nd out of Greensboro, North Carolina. It's going to be an all-day trip. Train leaves at 7, gets back at 8. We're going to Roanoke, Virginia, and it's going to where it's going to stop won't be too far. The old that whole area of Roanoke is really nice. They fixed it up. They got a wonderful rail walk, and the old Roanoke train station has been turned into the old Winston Lake Museum, which now, for all those small pictures that we've seen in his books, I can see the big pictures. Probably come back with all sorts of little souvenirs for you guys.
I had the privilege of riding behind the 611. It'll be 29 years this summer because my youngest, my son, my wife was very much pregnant with him, and as babies are wont to do, he was doing the tarantella and grieving his mother greatly until the train pulled out, and as soon as the train went into motion, he went to sleep, and he slept all the way to Fort Wayne, and as soon as the train stopped, then he found out he had a great love for the reel and the jig and started kicking up again. So by the time we were done with lunch and seeing historic Fort Wayne and it was time to go back to Chicago, his mom was very happy to get back on the train. But the thing that I remember most about the 611, besides that beautiful 5-chime air horn, is coming back into the Norfolk Southern Yard at 103rd and Stony Island. As you once you get to the bridge over the river, they disconnected the steam engine and let it go on ahead, and they hooked up a diesel to it, and it was like getting pulled down 4 miles of really bad washboard road. There's just no comparison between how smooth that engine is.
Oh yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
And
It's
that
sort of like
engine's
Penn Central trackage.
that engine's only 4 weeks older than I am, and it's in an awful lot better shape.
I have to.
Go ahead. I said something wrong.
Yeah. It's not a five chime air horn. It's a steam whistle.
5 whistles together?
5 chambers. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I knew I was going to say something wrong. The only reason you show up is to correct me. My bad.
Question for you.
But it sounds great.
Yeah.
Hammond, Indiana, that steam engine and nickel plate, what's the story on that?
Well, it has going to have a new home.
Okay.
It'll be going to New Haven, Indiana,
New Haven, Indiana. Okay.
where it'll be part of the Fort Wayne Historical Society. And it'll be the stablemate of 765.
Cool.
Which will change in a couple years. Because remember we talked about the new riverfront project that they have planned for Fort Wayne. Building a roundhouse and shop, and that's where 765 will live from then on.
Cool.
And it's supposed to open in 2 years?
God willing.
What's going to happen to the freight cars that are with it?
I don't know.
Because Hammond had the 765.
Mm-hmm.
There was a refrigerator car and a caboose behind it.
I don't know what's going to
Now,
happen to them.
what's going to happen to the one in Gary, Indiana? The one that the fake EJ&E.
Fake EJ&E?
Yeah, because it's not original EJ&E locomotive.
Oh, I thought it was.
I think it was another Wabash. It's in very bad shape.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Cities don't want to take care of it, and when groups try to take care of them, the city puts a lot of restrictions on them. And it's a shame. At least we know that one nickel plate locomotive will get a good home. But it's just like, well, I got the story of the Queen.
What's the latest what's the latest news from the Cheyenne shops?
Well, we know 844 is or 844 is running. The boiler's getting ultrasound on the big boy, so they're continuing working with that. And in between, they'll find time to work on the Challenger. That's all I've heard so far. And mostly, that's what everybody did. But,
What else you got there?
well, I got a lot of weird things.
Go ahead.
Okay.
It'll take, about 2-3 minutes?
You got it. Iowa Pacific runs the Texas State Railroad now. When they first took over, they started setting up, and they're not running for a couple of months. So what they do, they're laying off people, and everybody thought the Iowa Pacific was shutting the whole railroad down. No, we're not. They're letting people go, but they are, still doing maintenance work that needs to be done. Hopefully, with Iowa Pacific now running it, they can get a lot of their engines back up to speed again and running. Because they were running a Santa Fe Pacific, and they let that go by the wayside. They had a nice consolidation that we were running, even a nice 10-wheeler. And let's see. One of the first things done when Wick Warman took for Amtrak, they made several management changes and organizational changes which will increase organizational effectiveness, improve its service to its 31 million customers, and position itself for even more competitive future. Effective immediately, Amtrak president reduced by half the senior management team to 6 direct reports: operations, marketing and business development, finance, law, administration, planning, technology, and public relations. Those are the 6 offices. Since joining the Amtrak team in September, I've been impressed by the dedication and passion of our employees and leadership team. This new structure aligns with our focus on improving ways we do business, modernizing and enhancing the customer experience, and investing in the future. To strengthen focus on safety and service delivery, train operations will be managed regionally through 3 general managers, supported by mechanical, engineering, network support, police, and security organizations. The marketing and business development group will expand beyond its traditional role and include product development, planning, contract management functions of the current business lines. The new administrative group will serve to efficiently manage key administrative support functions, including human resources, labor relations, procurement, and enterprise project management. Certain corporate planning, informational technology, and station and facility functions, as well as the government affairs and corporate communications division, will be transferred to the new planning, technology, and public affairs group. So he's starting to make his mark, and hopefully we can see the improvements for us. But you were talking about what's going to happen to locos. Here's a good one. Amarillo, Texas. The fate of former Santa Fe 210-2 Texas type number 5000, better known as Madam Queen, remains in limbo 4 months after the city of Amarillo started soliciting bids from prospective buyers. City leaders received 1 bid, but later deemed it unacceptable after the would-be buyer wanted to move the locomotive out of state. City council members decided they would prefer to keep the locomotive in Texas. The 1930 Baldwin had been a longtime fixture of Amarillo since Santa Fe donated the locomotive in '57.
Jack's on the phone.
I understand we have a caller.
Yes, you do.
Hi, Jack.
Hey, how's things going, guys?
Well, we're doing good. We were getting ready to close the show, but we're glad you're here for the end.
Well, I still get paid, right?
Say again?
I still get paid, I say.
There you go.
Yeah. So,
Patronage never dies, Jack.
yeah. Well, I wish I was with you guys, really. I know you get along fine without me, but nonetheless, folks, I never cease to amaze the amount of information take out of one of our shows alone. To know what a complex subject we have. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Let me see. Oh, I was watching White Heat the other day. That opens up with a train robbery. That's quite. I'm thinking that was quite a leap that Cagney made off of the, off from the overpass onto the train.
Mm-hmm.
Man, what a leap that guy made! Ooh, would have broken every bone in my body with that one. But
That's because you don't have a good stunt man.
yeah. Well, what can I say? It bounced like a ball, I guess. Who do we have on tonight?
Pardon?
Who all was present?
Well, we got Ron. We got Kevin. Yeah, Kevin. That's his name. Doug and myself.
Ron's there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kevin. And who? Doug.
Yep.
Yo.
Yeah. Oh, he's pretty good. He's got a good crew. We're lucky.
We're floundering without adequate leadership.
Well, we're going to change all that. That's when we have elections, right? So, okay. Listen. Take care, everybody. I'll see you soon.
Okay, well, thanks for calling in, Jack.
Yeah.
Glad you're
Take
doing
care.
great.
Bye.
Hopefully next month.
Okay.
See you later. On that note, I guess it is time to say goodbye. Have anything to add?
Not for me.
We're good.
In the absence of our fearless leader, happy rails to you.
As our express comes into the station, we want to thank you for joining us for our journey through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and can be listened to on the web at www.windycityhometown.com, where you can listen to tonight's broadcast and all our past episodes, and also sample some of the other fine programs that are being offered. This is your announcer, Brian Valouv. Till next month, when we journey to Chicago Junction.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, January the 16th, the year 2017. Chicago Junction was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment, Mr. John Shikondo. Today's broadcast was pre-recorded on Thursday, January the 12th, the year 2017. Until next time, please be safe and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois.